Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on the beautiful April the 29th, 2019, Grando Deportes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, I feel like a fat guy in a sauna today, but it's not doing me any good eating these Girl Scout cookies either.
Yeah, leave the Girl Scout cookies alone. I know how good they taste, especially in some cold milk. A lot of things going on in the sports universe. NBA basketball, it really is fantastic. I hope this Monday morning quarterbacking, if you use that metaphor, will stop happening in the NHL, also in NBA. You're going to compromise the integrity of your officials when the league comes back and says, yeah, they got it wrong. Also, Major League Baseball, still a lot of empty seats in the house. I know how bad it feels for a church when you start church and nobody's there. I think Major League Baseball, yeah, they broke the bank, but they're also breaking their fans. Big C, I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Big C, I know you must be as full as I am. You talk about eating all the Girl Scout cookies. Did you save some for the girls, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, hey, I got tricked. They got these cookies called Thin Mints.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm thinking they're supposed to make you thin. So I'm eating a box of them.
Yeah.
And, I look up, and I'm not getting any thinner. So somebody's lying about the marketing of the Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah.
You think these little girls would have good intentions.
Yeah, you would think
so. They have bad, mean-spirited intentions for old guys and stuff.
Yeah. I know. Sometimes I see these people like Frank Thomas. I like his career as a baseball player, but every time he's talking about how to lose weight and get your libido back, I'm like, Frank, you're already, big enough. What are you trying to prove, Frank? But I know there's so many. Who is it? The Maria Osmond. She has on some Nutrislam, and even Oprah had these how to lose weight thing. How about people just eat what you want and be what you want? Big C, that make any sense?
Well, Charlton, that's what I'm doing. I'm on Weight Watchers also. I'm watching my weight go up.
Yeah.
So I'm just in a reverse role in there. But we all love to indulge.
Yeah.
And that's one of the pleasures of life, to have a little gluttony from time to time.
Yeah.
Whether we overindulge in sports, whether we overindulge in exercise, or whether we're overindulging in food.
Yeah.
I love my dessert, and I happen to overindulge in it from time to time. And my bad. I just don't put the scale out anymore. I keep it here in the closet.
Yeah, who in the world created the scale anyway? You can be feeling all good about yourself. Now, I know out here, I'm sure it's like this all over the country. I know POTUS is trying to kill healthcare, but you got to have something. When you go to the doctor, why is it the doctor always asks you to get on the scale? What are you going to the doctor have to do to be on the scale? They never get on the scale. They always ask the patient going in to get on the scale. Why do they do that, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I'm confused at it, because that's the first thing they ask you once they take you into the back. They say, step on the scale.
Yeah.
I'm like, for what? I know I weigh too much.
Yeah, I just think that's wrong. It makes us feel bad, and that way you listen to everything they tell you. But as far as getting on the scale, we know a lot of guys got on the scale in the NFL combines and all the draft, and the teams got who they wanted for the most part. But before we even get into that, I want to just take us back to the days of free labor, where people don't get paid for what they do. Oklahoma Women's National Championship Gymnastics this weekend. Congratulations to that Sooners program. We know they're always congratulated, Big C, for having a dominant football program, especially when I started following Oklahoma. It was about Barry Switzer and all the great programs. They've had a lot of baseball and track and field championships as well as basketball, but congratulations to the Sooners gymnastics team, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when we look at all of what's on television constantly, when you think about these type of sports, the gymnastics, men and women, they don't get the notoriety as everybody else, even though these are tremendous young athletes when you see them out there on the floor, on the beams and on the bars. Just great athleticism and coordination. And congratulations to the Lady Sooners. being out there on the prairies, you know, the men's football team couldn't get a national championship done during the football season, but the ladies did.
Well, I want to ask you, the Girl Scout cookies, were they the cookies that were being shipped through your restaurants for the Oklahoma Women's National Championship gymnastics team? You thought, Dixie?
Well, no. I mean, these little girls be ambushing you outside the grocery stores and places.
Oh, okay.
Mister, would you like to buy some cookies? Really, no, I wouldn't. But, you know, since you got this little sad puppy dog face on you, give me a case of them.
Yeah. What kind of person can walk past the Girl Scouts and they say, sir, would you like to buy some cookies? Who's going to say no to that? So, again, for all the Girl Scouts around the country, you know, good luck selling those cookies, and hopefully they'll get to where they're supposed to be. Also, I want to bring it to the West Coast. Stanford, they won the men's NCAA championship, followed by Oklahoma in second. So all around, Oklahoma's athletic program's pretty good. But Stanford, people talk about how difficult it is to get a degree at Stanford University. They've had some great athletes over the years. But when you look at what they've done in the men's NCAA championship, followed up by Oklahoma being second, Stanford's won national championships in baseball. You know, they've had a good, solid track and field program. Their golf team is dominant as well. Tiger was on the national championship team back in, I think, 1994. And then you look at what they're doing in the men's NCAA championships. I think that's amazing. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, you think about the ladies' basketball team out there under Tara Vanderveer.
Yeah.
You know, how dominant they've been. But, you know, you think about the gymnastics team, and, you know, the swimming team had a couple Olympic competitors in it in the last summer games. But, you know, you look at Stanford winning it all, but look at Oklahoma coming in second in the men's event also. So, you know, you think about a dominant, you know, gymnastics program that you have at the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But congratulations to Stanford on being the men's champion.
You know, I remember that stadium at Stanford before they tore it down. It held 84,000. And then being down there for football games, also some track and field events. I remember doing my first Pac-10 at the time, track and field event, and they have their own little track and field stadium. They don't play where the football team plays, but it holds about maybe 10,000, if that much, and it's in a nice shaded area over there at Stanford University. I remember covering the Pac-10 championships back in '96, and to see that program is still strong, it says a lot about that school. Even though a lot of people think that Stanford is for academics first, it is. But I don't think the sports takes a back seat to anybody just because their academics are so high. Kind of like Harvard of the West Coast, but they still win national titles. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, just to have great athletes, you know, to want to go to a fine institution. And when you think about Stanford, they're in a major conference. They're in one of the Power 5 conferences.
Yeah.
So you are going to be able to recruit some of the elite scholar athletes.
Yeah.
And that's how they've been so successful across the board in all their athletic programs.
Yeah, I'm really, really happy with Stanford. Plus, being out here, got my first chance to do major college sports at Stanford. I remember Coach Mike Montgomery back in '96. And I was doing talent stats on the floor. That's the first time that I sat on the floor of a college or NBA stadium arena. And that floor would bounce. I remember it would bounce, and you could hear it, and you could feel it in Old Maples Pavilion. They've added on to a little bit of it. There's a little bit larger capacity now. It's about 7,000 back in the day when I was there. But that whole program really impressed with what they've done: football, basketball, baseball, and track and field. I want to bring you also, I want to keep it in the Bay Area, Big C, down in Silicon Valley, where they also sell a lot of Girl Scout cookies. A lot of those girls from those rich families, they need to sell Girl Scout cookies to make the mortgage payment. That make any sense, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you know, Daddy's living a little beyond his means.
Yeah.
The little girl out there hustling Girl Scout cookies and knowing that you can't say anything wrong to his daughter, saying no, you know, she's going to be sad.
Yeah, well, let me juxtapose that and how the cute girls go out and sell Girl Scout cookies. Now, and we'll get into NFL later. I want to get Big C's thoughts on the draft, and everybody has their opinion. But I want to get your feeling while we're still here with the Girl Scout cookies being sold in the Bay Area. So what does a Girl Scout do when she comes across Bosa? You know, Nick Bosa. And, you know, young kids, they can read and they tweet a lot. So when they run across his Twitter account and they find that he has friends that use the N-word like handshakes, and they find that they can also read that the Great 49er organization, they don't even care, that they embrace him anyway, and they even, you know, goaded up some of their players to say good things about him and congratulate him. And I think it's disingenuous, and I want them to do well, but I have this media thing out here on the West Coast where a lot of people keep saying, well, the Bosa thing, I don't really see much. It's really not much of a big deal. It's like people can have a different political opinion. They call using the N-word a political opinion. That's how jaded some of my mainstream brethren are, Big C. So what's the Girl Scout do when she runs across Nick Bosa and asks him to buy some Girl Scout cookies, and she's African-American girl, and she's read his tweets, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, this is the type of individual you want to avoid socially. When you think about the vitriol that he has spun, and we're not talking about a high school kid, we're talking about a college man that's out there making these statements. Not only was he making these negative statements about African-American athletes and African-American society,
yeah.
He got a tweet from the president congratulating him about being drafted. You think about this. The president did not tweet the number 1 overall draft pick, Kyler Murray, an African-American.
No.
Nor did he tweet any of the other top 5 draft picks that were African-American. But he singled out Joey Bosa for this particular reason.
Yeah.
Nick Bosa. He singled him out because he's used the negative African-American tweets, speaking negatively about African-Americans. The president was proud of him for doing that, and so the president wanted to send him a congratulatory about being drafted and making these negative tweets towards dark members of society.
Yeah.
This is a slippery slope. When you think about how much of a diverse city that San Francisco is, the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And you think about all the cultures and all the genders and everything else that are in this area that makes it such a great financial area.
Yeah.
But to bring in an individual of negativity and to be embraced, as all the people out there in the media say, well, politics and sports don't mix. The president has constantly put his face on the face of the NFL in a negative light towards black players in the NFL. Tell them to get the SOBs out of the country, fire the SOBs, all of these things.
Yeah.
And here it is, he's embracing Nick Bosa for saying these things also.
Yeah.
So, as a teammate, I would have problems with an individual like this. When you walk in, you know that he's a known racist.
Yeah.
70% of the 49ers roster is going to be African-American.
African-American, yeah.
And as you say, the team had the other players go out and put a social congratulatory to him throughout the media.
Yeah.
And saying that they were happy to have him here. You wish all the best for any athlete.
Yeah.
But also, you got to look at it from other African-American athletes in the league.
Yep.
Will they extend an olive branch to him?
Well, I think about what we always celebrate Jackie Robinson and what Jackie Robinson went through, and it's a shame that we have to celebrate Jackie Robinson, and the only reason he's being celebrated is because he did not retaliate against the bigotry and the enmity that many people had against him. Had he responded, they would have made it his fault and said, well, you got to be the bigger person. I just think it's a shame because I don't know about you, Big C, but I have some great respect and kinship and relationship with some grandparents that have even passed on, but what they taught me did not pass away. And they taught me about treating people fair. But more important, because we're not perfect, if you make a mistake, they say, own it, apologize. This bigot never apologized, and to see the same organization turn their back on Colin Kaepernick for trying to end bigotry and xenophobia and all the other garbage, they turned their back on him, and primarily Bay Area media. They were all saying you're anti-American, get the blank out of the country. But then this known bigot comes in, they say, well, he was young and he couldn't read and he didn't know what he was doing. But before African-American men were lynched, oftentimes that was the word they heard. And now you have the organization, the 49ers, and POTUS with the Central Park 5 saying congratulations, keep being who you are. I just think some of our black brothers should wake up and quit. If people don't apologize, why you sit them acting like you want to have them on your team? Does it make any sense, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, no, it doesn't make sense. But I guess the alleged talent outweighs the alleged buffoonery.
Yeah.
You know, that's how the NFL looks at it. You know, it's always been a meat market.
Yeah.
The NFL has.
Yep.
And you would think in this day and age of political correctness and sensitivity,
Yep.
is that all teams, the 49ers franchise, being in the locale that it is,
Especially.
would be more sensitive to it than any other franchise in the NFL.
Yep.
And, you know, I'm curious to how the commissioner will handle this the first time that he puts a tweet and has the N-word in it,
Yeah.
or even speaks negatively towards black people.
Yeah. Well, Harry Evers has been known to be hanging around the 49ers organization. I know Steve is a lawyer, former quarterback. And you just think about it, and I hope that it creates a dialogue that's healthy. But to pretend that he didn't say it, that's just more egregious. Steve Young is a lawyer, he would know, but Harry Evers is down there. Either way, that's the 49ers. There you go, folks. Big C, in the NHL tonight, the St. Louis Blues at the Dallas Stars. Game 3 tonight. Series is tied at 1 each. They're the only show in town for the NHL. You would think they would have a big fanfare about it. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, it's the one game on the slate tonight on the ice.
Yeah.
And these teams are tied at 1-1. And, you know, this is the semifinal round of the Stanley Cup. And we Dallas has won the Cup before. St. Louis is a team that's in dire need when you think about that region and what it's been going through in the Midwest with all the floods.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the devastation that's gone there on the Missouri River.
Yep.
You know, it would be great to see the Blues advance to the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, that would be nice for that region. And again, I know people say it all the time, but thoughts and prayers are with the great people that are dealing with flooding in the Midwest, and we just hope that everything works out and that people can hold on to at least their lives, even though sometimes you can't hold on to the property. I want to just bring up something that happened before we run down some of the baseball, and then I want to get into the NBA that I'm really passionate about it. I love it. I love it all. Baseball on this date, Big C. If you go way back to 1986, it was the great Roger Clemens and the Boston Red Sox. Talk about how many great teams Boston has. He set a major league record. He had 20 strikeouts in a 9-inning game. Now they don't want guys making 10 times his salary, pitching more than 7 innings. That was some type of performance where you can go that many innings and you have 20 strikeouts. He didn't get pulled in the 6th or 7th inning. Your thoughts?
Well, you think about the dominance of a Roger Clemens, and it's a shame that he's not in baseball's Hall of Fame along with Barry Bonds.
I know it.
But you think about a pitcher getting 20 strikeouts, setting the major league record. And, you know, here it is, you're saying that he's not deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. But great performances like that we will never see again in baseball because we're in an era of all the pitching specialists.
Yep.
And so you're going to need 4 or 5 pitchers in a game to amass 20 strikeouts.
Yeah.
But Roger Clemens to be able to do that by himself in such a dominant performance, something we'll probably never see again in Major League Baseball.
When you think about something that just brought to my mind, it's hard being an athlete. It's hard being anything in life. You got to beat everybody out who's trying to take your job. They don't care who makes it, being the teams don't care. They just care that somebody makes it. So now, if you put yourself in the same shoes, like they say, walk a mile in a man's shoes before you judge him, walk a mile in the shoes of Clemens and Barry Bonds, and no matter what people think about those two gentlemen, they deserve, based on their performance, to be in the Hall, because if they were accused of anything, it would just make sense that they were playing against guys who were also doing the same thing, that even though Barry Bonds never tested positive. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, during that era, everybody was dealing with the same thing. Whether it was a pitcher, whether it was a everyday position player.
Yeah.
Everybody. And so when Major League Baseball wants to sit there and single out an individual, they always can. Just like NCAA football, when you want to put 2 schools like Cal Poly and Cleveland State on probation because the players got an extra $200 and a book stipend, they could stop at any major 5 university, the Power 5 conferences, and put all those schools on probation. Especially for basketball. The egregious acts that we've seen for wiretapping and, you know, they've caught players and coaches taking payments. And yet those schools are not on probation. Those Power 5 schools are not on probation, yet Cal Poly and Cleveland State are. So when we look at these situations, how they are, there's no fairness when it comes down to that.
And we know that's part of it. But with baseball, It's still a great game. But I know I talk about it all the time, and I know you cover all the sports from boxing to golf to football, and even as a good old boy, you know more about the Kentucky Derby than some people who live down there, Big C. But I want to get some feeling tonight when you look at Major League Baseball and you look at some of the games. It's a full house tonight for Major League Baseball. You have Oakland at Boston. Boston has been struggling. They're still on that World Series hangover. I'm sure the Dodgers are saying, where were you guys last year in the World Series? It's a different Boston team. St. Louis at Washington. But before I even go down the schedule, Oakland at Boston. These are two marquee franchises for Major League Baseball. Oakland on the West Coast, Boston on the East Coast. I know the game is already underway. You have there's so much of a fanfare at Fenway Park. Just give me your feeling. Can Boston come out of the doldrums before we get through May? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, it's an early season right now, and when you look at Boston, maybe you don't train as much as you can once you won the championship.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find a team that's going to repeat. And even when you're the champs, it's like Quinn Capella talked about. He was looking forward to playing the Warriors.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to play the champ because that's how everybody is gauged.
Yep.
Let's beat the champ. I mean, you want to win every game that you play. But you play even harder when you're facing the champ, and that's what Boston has faced this year. They had a miraculous season last year under Cora as manager in his rookie year, winning it all in 108 regular season games.
Yeah,
which is very hard to duplicate. It's very hard to get to 100 wins in Major League Baseball.
Yep.
But then got off into the doldrums at the early part of the season, and when June rolls around, that's when Major League Baseball takes off for real.
Yeah.
And if they're not too far out of the chase, like I said, all you need is a 12, 15 game win streak.
Yeah.
And you're right back in the thick of things.
Right back in the thick of things. Tonight also, St. Louis at Washington already underway. Cincinnati's at the New York Mets. San Diego, they're at Atlanta down south. Colorado at Milwaukee. Boy, Milwaukee's having a lot going on in their sports town. We'll get on that when we touch on NBA basketball. Houston at Minnesota. Baltimore at Chicago. Tampa Bay at Kansas City, and then the biggest rivalry on the West Coast, the LA Dodgers at the San Francisco Giants, who were just, knocked around at Oracle Ballpark by the New York Yankees. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you think about that game, Charlton, the Giants are just not going to do anything this year.
Yeah.
When you look at Bruce Bochy on the way out, he did not really assemble a team, nor did management put a team out there for him because they're sitting waiting on next year's manager to be in place so he can put his players in place.
Yeah, and then you see what happened with Saban and the wife incident and all that junk. Makes it difficult. American League standings in the East, Tampa Bay, top of the heap. In the Central, you have Minnesota. The Twins, they're leading the top of the heap for the Minnesota Twins in the Central. And you look at the West and the American League, the Houston Astros, I hate that they play in the Dome, but I know they have to because the weather's so humid. That's a team that you're looking at maybe getting back to at least the ALCS. In the National League, the Phillies leading the top of the heap for them, just being chased by the Mets. In the Central, St. Louis and Chicago. I love baseball, especially when those regional teams that have been playing each other for nearly 100 years, and the Cardinals and the Cubs play. And then out west, you have the LA, and then you have Machado bringing that $300 million down to San Diego, and they're going to push the Dodgers this year. Give me your feeling. Does any baseball team right now make you as excited as maybe baseball wants it to feel, Big C, or is it still wait until summer gets here? Your thoughts?
Well, the thing with baseball right now is that we've seen some teams spring up that should not even be there. We've seen Tampa Bay and we've seen Seattle lead their respective divisions. And that wasn't even thought of. We've seen the Yankees with a multitude of injuries here early in the season.
Yep.
I like the series between St. Louis and Chicago because these two teams have been playing each other for 100 years. And we talk about bitter rivalries.
Yeah.
But I look at Christian Yelich up in Milwaukee, leading the major leagues in home runs.
Yep.
And this was a guy that Derek Jeter didn't want down in Miami. And he was the MVP last year, and he's leading the league in home runs this year, followed by Cody Bellinger with the Dodgers. So there's been some exciting baseball, and we've seen players in slumps. We've seen big money players that, are trying to work their way up to their salary based on their play performance.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't want guys who make too much money. How'd that ever happen? And now this might sound like the dumbest question. I've asked a lot of dumb questions, but have you ever seen where the guy who makes too much money, even though he's the best player on your team, they want to get rid of him, Big C? You ever see that before? Your thoughts?
Oh, Charlton, that's a constant in sports. I mean, we see that with the trades all the time in the NBA, the Major League Baseball, and even in the NFL,
Yeah.
the NHL. You know, because it's talking about salary cap. Other than a quarterback in football, everybody's expendable.
Yeah.
You're going to see that coming up at the end of the NBA playoffs. You're going to see a lot of big money contracts move on because players are looking to get max money out of their next deal.
Yeah, and not willing to renegotiate the deal. Oftentimes that could be something that keeps a lot of people, packing their suitcases and having to go elsewhere. I want to bring up what happened. I know NBA action is fantastic, and everybody has their own opinion, and that's what I love about the sports business. Whether you're political, whether it's entertainment, people think different actors should have won an award, or different musicians should have had best album, or different people have a different take on whatever it is. Big City Sports no different than anybody else. But when you think about the NBA playoffs, Golden State beat Houston 104-100, and I thought it was an amazing game. But there was a lot of bad things in that game too. James Harden and Chris Paul, they flopped so much on their kickouts when they're shooting three-point shots, and officials are not buying that anymore. Now, I don't blame Paul and Harden for kicking their legs out when they jump in the air. Now, find me the person that jumps up in the air and tries to land on their butt. You don't find that. But these two guys, and I love them as players, but I don't like what they're doing to the game. They get the benefit of the doubt when they can tie you up and grab you, but when they jump and they kick you, they want a foul call because you didn't get out of the way of the kick. Now, am I seeing it wrong? I want to get your thoughts on it, Big C.
Well, Charlton, this is something that's been going on all season, and I think that the league has clamped down, coming from the commissioner's office, is that we're not going to make these flop calls. There's a thing called verticality when you jump.
Yeah.
Is that you go up and you come down in the same line.
Yeah.
But when you go with an angle on your body that once you shoot, that your legs go past vertical.
Yeah.
All of a sudden now you created the contact.
Yeah.
And this is what the officials are looking for. If you're creating the contact with your lower body below your waist, they're not going to make that call.
Yeah.
Because not only do you have to give a player the ability to come down in the space, you also have to give the defensive player the ability to come down from his verticality.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody is seeing, and some people are being upset about, is that they say, well, this was called all year long. Yes, it was. But the thing about any league is that you make adjustments as you go on.
Yeah.
If you go back and you remember when they had the start of the NFL season, and they had this new sack rule about touching people like your cousin in the backfield in Minnesota,
right?
Is that players had to adjust on how to not hit quarterbacks any longer.
Don't grab them.
And it took a few games to make that adjustment.
Yep.
Now that we've gotten a few games into the playoffs, the officials have made the adjustments.
Yeah.
They've looked all year long at this flop technique done by the Rockets.
Yeah.
And James Harden has been very egregious all year long. Matter of fact, the past 2 years in the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
And so they've made these adjustments. And so you have some fans that have been rooters of the Rockets and saying, hey, this is wrong. And that's where Chris Paul got upset about.
Yeah.
Is that you've allowed this all year long.
Yeah.
Now you're not going to allow it.
Yep.
Well, if the dog hadn't stopped us, look around the corner, he'd caught the rabbit also.
Yeah.
But this is one of these things that I'm proud of the officials because
me too.
We come in, as Larry Bird said, did the fans come here to see you call fouls, or they come here to see me score?
Right.
And so they're taking an old analogy from Larry Bird.
Yeah.
Let the players play. Stop calling fouls. If there's a foul, you're going to call it.
Yeah.
But this flop crap that's been going on all year long, I'm proud of the officials for standing up, getting it right.
Yeah, and then Larry Bird, bringing up Larry Bird, he was a great jumper shooter when he was at Boston Garden, the old Boston Garden. When Bird went up to shoot, I never saw him kick his legs out, preparing to fall on his butt just so he could get a call. Maybe he couldn't jump that high, but he still came down on his feet, not his butt. Your thoughts?
Well, you look at the great jump shooters in the NBA now. Steph Curry doesn't do it. Kevin Durant doesn't do it.
No.
Russell Westbrook, Paul George. Damian Lillard, Kawhi Leonard. You can go up and down the list of players in the playoffs.
Yeah.
No other player in the NBA is going that type of body action. And that's why when you're looking at these guys, it's all about verticality. Look at anybody else on the Rockets team. Their vertical is straight up and down. now.
Yeah.
They're not throwing their legs out trying to draw contact. And if anything should be called, it actually should be called an offensive foul against the player, because now you're kicking the defender and causing this contact.
Yeah, and I agree. Let me get one more thing. Now, I'm not saying this because I'm on the West Coast. I think everyone in the sports universe, we saw Jordan push off when they beat Utah in the NBA final. Everybody saw him push off, but he was Jordan, and the league wanted Michael Jordan to win another championship. We understand that, but it was still a foul. So when I ask you this question, when I look at how Harden, if he's going to complain, he should complain that the officials allow him to take 4 and sometimes 5 steps to the basket without a dribble. That's what the Coach D'Antonio should be complaining about. Even if it's your own player, you want them to learn the right system. Does that make any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, that's become the rule of law in the NBA. Traveling is an oddity now when it's called an NBA. The 4 steps is acceptable.
Yeah.
You got to get the 6 steps basically in the NBA before you get a travel call.
Yeah.
You know, once the cab comes on the floor to take you to the basket, they'll call traveling at that point.
Yeah, I think that's funny. So the big story is not about Houston flopping and kicking their legs out. And if you're Houston, maybe if you stop kicking your legs out, you won't throw off your shot. And maybe you could hit a 3. But I think when you have Curry in foul trouble at home, or you have Thompson in foul trouble, Iguodala in foul trouble, Durant was also thrown out of a game, fouled out of a game at Oracle Arena. How can anyone, and that was against the Clippers, how can anyone say that Golden State is not getting calls for fouls and their opponents are being over? Does that make any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, you know, they've had the foul. But, you know, as you say, you know, when you look at the Rockets, they're creating the contact. It's not the Warriors creating the contact.
Yeah.
And that's the thing you have to look at most of it, is that who is creating the contact, who initiated.
Yeah.
It's like when a player's going to the basket and they have the little arc under the basket.
Yeah.
That if you're underneath that, it's not an offensive foul. If you're outside that, then you're going to get the offensive foul.
Yeah.
So the Rockets have become very perfectionists at throwing out the legs. And as you say, they're short on the jump shots because they don't have the verticality to lift.
Yeah.
And without having that lift, that's why they're coming up short.
Yeah, that's very true. Big C, what we're going to do is everybody has their opinion, and we love having people's opinion. We're going to take a Big C pause, and we'll be right back with more NBA action. All right, Big C, we are back on the Big C Sports Show. You can follow us on the iHeartRadio Network, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Also on Xfinity Comcast, you can follow Big C Sports Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, 6 p.m. I want to get your feeling on something. In my opinion, really the big story in this game, and then we'll get into some more games, is that Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, they combined for only 31 points. I know Curry had an injury to his ankle down in L.A., and then Klay Thompson, he had a little hitch in his giddy-up also. But the fact that they had 2 star players, 2 really of the 4 star players on that team that were injured, I think they'll play better in Game 2. Who has more pressure on them right now? It's easy to say Golden State has less pressure, but I think they got to get Curry and Thompson shooting better, because Houston, the way the NBA calls games, I wouldn't be surprised if Houston won Game 2, even though I think Golden State's still the favorite. Big, so your thoughts?
Well, you know, I don't know if that you have to have Curry or Thompson shooting better. I mean, they're rhythm shooters, and they have their streaking.
Yeah.
You know, when they're hot, they're hot. You know, there was a point in the game where Kevin Durant told Curry to just take it.
Yeah.
When he had Nene on him.
Yeah.
And he broke Nene down, you know, sent him a Christmas present, broke his ankle, and knocked down the 3. Gave him a little shimmy as he walked away.
Yep.
But when you're looking at Kevin Durant, and my thoughts, hands down, Kevin Durant right now is the best player in the NBA.
He's the best in the universe.
LeBron James, I'm not slighting him, but LeBron has been around for a long time. And there's some wear on those tires.
Yeah.
But when I look at what Kevin Durant does, when he wants to assert himself in a game, there's no stopping. There's nothing you can do to defend him. I don't care who you put on him. You can't defend a guy that's 7 feet tall that plays like he's 6'2".
Yes.
You just can't. He's the originator of the long man.
Yeah.
And that's what Kevin Durant has done. So if you don't have a handle, I mean, look what he did in Game 6 of that series against the Clippers.
Yeah.
50 points. He can go off when he wants to go off. He he allows his teammates to do what they do so that they stay in the Evans flow of the game. Whether it's Draymond Green, whether it's Iguodala, whether it's Curry, whether it's Thompson. These players can get their shot when they want. But when there's a critical shot needed, they have Kevin Durant. So that nobody's worried about not having a hot night. And that night that Durant scored 50, what did Curry have, 12?
Yeah, he scored low.
It's not about one guy controlling the tempo with his team. They go with the hot hand.
Yeah, I really like that. And the fact that Kerr said it too. Now remember, Curry was the only unanimous MVP that the NBA has ever had. He's done it twice, but only one time unanimous. And when you think about Kerr, this is still Curry's territory. And people saying that Durant may want to go elsewhere. But you have the coach that has the winningest franchise right now in the NBA saying he wants Durant to have the ball. Why would he want to go elsewhere just not to have what? He wants to rebuild? He wants to do what LeBron James this year, go someplace and try to assemble a team and lose? It doesn't make any sense. Give me your feeling on that message that Kerr gave, and they're doing a lot of interviews now with the backdrop of the new Chase Center. That has to be a statement to Durant and Curry and Thompson that he wants Durant to stay there, and they're giving him the ball. He gets a chance to be the best player in the NBA universe. There's no need to even talk about next year, but I think that was a message sent. Bixie, your thoughts?
Well, I don't even know if what a coach says about wanting a player in a situation really means anything. I even have any weights these days because the players own the NBA. They own 53% of the league.
Yeah.
And what I look at is the body language of the players on the court.
Yep.
Well, when I'm watching guys walk around high-fiving each other, dabbing each other up, smiling at each other, this is what I see as far as players wanting to be together. I know early in the season, everybody was talking about, well, Durant wanted to be out there because he was fed up with Draymond Green.
Right.
Even Steve Kerr made some comments. But the bottom line is, when you have a winning institution, that is hard to replace.
Yeah.
You're not going to go out and find those pieces on the open market.
Right.
And even players, once they become free agents, understand they can't go somewhere and take that group with them.
Yeah.
Ask Luke Walton. When he went to the Los Angeles Lakers, everybody said, wow, this is a hotshot young coach.
Yeah.
But only the coach went to the Lakers.
Yep.
The players stayed in Golden State. And what did the players do after he left? They kept winning.
Yeah.
He could not win with the young players in Los Angeles. And that's around the NBA.
Yeah.
When you look at Kawhi Leonard, he went to a winning team in Toronto. They had the best record in the East.
Yep.
It wasn't like he had to rebuild that situation. But when you look when Paul George went to OKC, that team is still the same team it was prior to Paul George showing up.
Yep.
The Houston Rockets has been the same since Chris Paul has showed there.
Yeah.
They have not been a dominant. They won the West once.
Yeah.
But they've been basically the same team, a second and third seed throughout the tenure there.
Yeah.
So when you look at players going to places, you don't see one superstar in the NBA going to the worst team in the league, making them better. Ask LeBron James.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. But speaking of working and trusting the process, I know over the weekend Philadelphia went up north to Canada, and they got had. They got had rather easily, 108-95. Kawhi Leonard drops 45 points and dominated performance. I know they're playing now. We're not going to give out, what's going on now in the game, but we know anyone who has access to a TV screen, we're not trying to spoil, what you're seeing. But give me your feeling. I didn't think that Philly would fall so easily in game one, but it seemed like they were just outclassed, like they were winded. We could talk about Joel Embiid all they want, but even in Oakland, there's no Boogie Cousins, so one player shouldn't make that much of a difference where you lose by 23 points. Bixie, your thoughts?
Well, this is a game of 4-on-5 when you look at it. Toronto is playing with 5 offensive players. Philadelphia is playing with 4.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons does not create a threat from the outside. He has to get inside the paint to bring anything to the opposing defense. Toronto's recognizing that. They want him. They're encouraging him to shoot outside because he doesn't have the shot. When you look at his offensive prowess, it's not the outside game. So you can basically play a zone defense against him. Just don't allow him to the 10.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid is not 100%. He has a tendonitis in the knee.
Yeah.
But there's no answer for Kawhi Leonard. Who do you put on him?
Nobody.
You got Ben Simmons out there. He's working too hard on defense against Kawhi Leonard.
Yep.
There's really no matchup. But when you look at what Toronto is doing. This is a team that has made advancements from last year after being knocked out in the first round, after winning the division.
Yep.
They made some adjustments. They brought in some Grizzly veterans. When you look at Gasol and you look at Leonard, you know, these players understand what playoff basketball is all about.
Yeah,
and Siakam has really stepped up, averaging 20 points a game in the playoffs. That's the neutralizer right there. You know that Kawhi is going to get him, but they have no answer for Siakam also. So when your front court is dominating a series in the playoffs, it's hard to get out.
Yeah, it's hard to get out. Now, if we go to Milwaukee and we look at what Boston has done, Boston with Kyrie Irving, he really is. He reminds me of, I think it was Curly Neal with the Harlem Globetrotters back in the day, the way he could dribble the ball so well. And watching him take over, and Boston beat number 1 seed Milwaukee 112-90. You think about that, to beat them by 22 points in Milwaukee. Kyrie had 26 points, 11 assists, 7 rebounds. Giannis had 22 points, and he had 2 assists and 8 rebounds. But I think when Horford blocked this shot, now, again, you can only see what TV shows you. They may have just shown it when he was on the bench with his head down. Do you think that he is going to go through what Jordan had to go through when he was being beaten up all the time by the Detroit Pistons back in the day before they overcame? Because Giannis, for the first time that I've seen in a long time, he did not look like he was invincible. Maybe they played a little bit of Bill Laimbeer, type of defense on him. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you got to look at Boston. That they blocked 11 shots in this game.
Yeah.
Boston is very physical, and so that was the answer. You're looking at Horford. He had 3 blocks. Horford is 6'10". He's not 6'2".
Right.
So he can play Giannis. Their size is equal.
Yep.
But he's always been a tremendous defensive player from the times he was at the University of Florida, winning back-to-back national championships.
Yeah.
And ever since he's been in the NBA, he has just never gotten that mantra of being a superstar.
Yeah.
But he's a great team player, and you look at what they are doing defensively in Boston.
Yeah.
Brad Stevens has gotten his team playing. And you think about all the media talking throughout the season that, the Achilles heel of this team was Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
Kyrie Irving right now this year is 5-0 in the playoffs. You think he's undefeated.
Yeah, he is.
And so, as much as the media wanted to beat him down, Kyrie Irving can get his shot at any time he wants, at any point on the floor.
Yeah.
Whether he wants to go from the three-point arc, whether he wants to do a mid-range jumper, whether he wants to go to the rim.
Yeah.
That's what he can do. And when he goes to the rim, he can kick it out because he has teammates that can knock down the jump shot.
Big C, I said he reminds me of Curly Neal, but that was mostly for showmanship with the Harlem Globetrotters. Who does Kyrie remind you of? You've seen a lot of good basketball players over the years. Even the days when you couldn't see the NBA Finals in daytime, you had to watch it at nighttime. Who does he remind you of with the ball in his hands?
Well, I'm going to go back to a player that you may know nothing about, and that's Earl of Pearl Monroe. Earl of Pearl Monroe started his career out of Winston-Salem, a historical black college.
Yeah.
He was with the Washington Bullets, their first overall draft pick. He ended his career with the New York Knicks, paired up with Walt Frazier in the backcourt.
Yeah.
But he had moves, and he could get his shot off at any time that he wanted from any point on the floor, whether he wanted to go to the rim with his herky-jerky moves. And this is what Kyrie reminds me of, handling the ball. Earl had that handle on the basketball that nobody could deal with. I mean, you thought he was one place, and yet he was gone and putting the ball in the 10.
Yeah. Imagine him at the Girl Scouts dance trying to get some cookies, getting 2 boxes instead of 1 because he dribbles so good. And so we know we get everybody's opinion. Everybody's opinion counts. Nobody's any better than anybody else. The players control it on the court, and I love the way Kyrie plays. You're starting to wonder that Cleveland let go LeBron James and Kyrie Irving, and you see it's just amazing how great players can make a team. So tonight we have Philadelphia at Toronto again. I don't think it's must win, but it's getting close to. They bet at 51% at least they should win that game. Your thoughts?
Well, no, it is a must win for Philadelphia because if you go down 2-0 to Toronto and you got Siakam and Leonard with those hot hands, you're not going to come back. You don't have enough streak shooters in Philadelphia to keep you playing. And Jimmy Butler hasn't played up to the level that I thought he would play here in the playoffs. And Embiid seems a little frustrated because Gasol can play him physically.
Give me a feeling Portland, Damian Lillard probably got over the the game-winning 37-foot jumper that he shot to beat OKC. And they got a long layoff before they go into Denver. Now they're in Denver. Tonight they're only 2 games worse in the win-loss column. Denver's record's 54-28. Portland's 53-29. I know Damian Lillard's a star player, but their big men have to match Jokic because you know he's going to get the benefit of the doubt. He's going to get the James Harden calls at Holmes up in Denver. Denver's a good team, but I wouldn't be surprised if they got knocked off by this hot-shooting Portland Trailblazers team. But have they had too much of a layoff, Big C? Your thoughts?
No, I mean, in the NBA at this point of the season, you can't get too much of a layoff. I mean, you're a professional shooter when you're an NBA player.
Yeah.
You know, I look at Denver. Jokic, you know, you got a 7'2" point guard in Denver. Everything goes through him, the entire offense. And so you want the ball in his hands. They're probably the best passing team left in the playoffs.
Yeah.
When you look at Denver, so you just can't hunker down on one guy because if there's an open man, they know how to find him.
Yeah.
But when I look at Portland, this is a little engine that could, you know, the red wagon.
Yep.
They're playing with a chip on their shoulder. They're up in the Northwest. No one even knows about them. Not many people know they're still in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because they never seen on television until it gets to this time of the year.
Yeah.
They have tremendous offensive weapons. And Lillard, this is a guy that is out to prove something finally. And this is going to be Portland's best chance to make a run in the NBA playoffs.
Yeah. I love your thinking on that. I know that Portland, they really need another team up in the Midwest. Think about the Northwest. They lost Vancouver, British Columbia. They went down to Memphis. And then they lost the Seattle. You think about they lost that franchise, went down to OKC, and then it left Portland, which used to be the third team that you would see coming from the Canadian border down to the West Coast. They were the third team after Vancouver and Seattle, the Supersonics. Now they're the only engine up there, and it seems they get less attention because not a lot of teams want to make a flight out to Portland, even for media. But before we get into some NFL talk that I know you're big on down there and watching what happened in the NFL draft, this is my own take. Everybody has their opinion. I want to get your feeling on the NBA, and I know we touched on it slightly, but I want to just do it again because I think it's so important, and because a lot of money is on the line, and sometimes jobs are on the line, and especially with the bet community, people don't trust what officials are doing now. I think it's bad when the commissioner will come out, whether it's NHL, NFL, or NBA, after we see them have a timeout, a commercial timeout. They go to the TV monitor. They tell you whether they agree or disagree with the call. And we hope that they got it right. And then 24 hours later, it comes out in media, well, our officials blew the call. Multiple times, saying there should have been 2 calls on Curry. And like Kerr said, they should have called 10 fouls or travels on Harden. But give me your feeling. I think that's bad when the commissioners come out and they stab their own officiators in the back. That's what the TV's for. That's why they call timeout. That make any sense, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you know, the commissioner, you always got to look, regardless of the sport. He's a guy out there to take a bullet for the owners.
Yeah.
That is the job of the commission. As much power as we want to think that a commissioner has, whether it's Roger Goodell, who is the most noted of all the commissioners, Rob Manfred in baseball.
Yeah.
When we look at the NBA,
yep.
You know, the commissioner there and Gary Bettman in the NHL.
Yeah,
we keep thinking that the commissioner,
NHL.
You know, is the guy. He is the spokesperson for the owners.
Yeah.
He is an employee, just like a player is an employee, just like a coach is an employee.
Yeah.
And whenever he makes a statement, he is being the voice of the owners. He is not making all these statements on his own.
Right.
Whenever we see these commissioners, you have to understand, there's an ownership committee that is allowing him to say what he says at any point.
Yes.
And all of these owners have a stake, especially the ones in the playoffs right now, have even a larger stake.
Yeah.
And so the commissioner just doesn't go out there all wild hair and willy-nilly, you know, making whatever statement that he wants.
Right.
He makes sure that he gets approval from his boss.
Yeah.
So when Adam Silver makes a statement the day after a game, when Roger Goodell makes a statement the day after a game, when Gary Bettman makes a statement the day after a game, when the baseball, Rod Manfred makes a statement.
Yeah.
They have gotten okay from their bosses.
Yeah.
To make these statements. They're not out there just saying, okay, I'm the guy who's the end all, the be all, and everything stops with me.
Yeah.
He still has to answer to the owners.
I want to just ask you one cynical question because of betting, especially prop betting. What does Vegas do when somebody put money on a team that, if the commissioner's right, and let's just say for Monday morning quarterback's sake, let's say if those calls were getting right and Houston won, but because they didn't, now the bookies are all jacked up. Do they go back and give those guys their money back? Does that make any sense?
Well, a fool and his money will soon part. Okay. This is what Vegas is all about.
That's why they call it gambling.
Vegas is not keeping the lights on, paying everybody.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
They keep the lights on by you losing, and prop bets are a foolish bet because they're egging you on.
Yeah.
You have to understand when a casino gives you odds.
Yeah.
They're giving you the odds that favor them.
Yeah.
So they want you to bet opposite.
Yeah.
Casinos are not turning off the lights these days. Matter of fact, more and more of them are opening up.
Yeah, they are. And I think that's interesting because a lot of gamblers make their money on knowing what's going on. Inside job. I think there's the movie Focus with the great Will Smith and Margaret Robbie talked about that. So like you said, a fool and their money will soon part. But I just think there's two things going on. Supreme Court made it legal. And now you have the league, you have people placing bets based on inside information. And then they're being told, well, you bet it right, but we called it wrong, and so we're not giving you the money back. I think that's a slippery slope we don't want to count down. But in the last 10 minutes of today's program, I want to get Big C's, your biggest takeaways of the NFL draft weekend. I know you were down there. There's some reports that over 600,000 fans were in Nashville that attended the draft through the 3 days they had it down there. Give me your feeling on your biggest takeaway from this weekend's NFL draft, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you look at the draft, there's always going to be reaches and speculation about what teams should do. Everybody has their own analogy. Right off the bat, Arizona got it right. They drafted Kyler Murray. And I don't think that there was much suspense when it came to that. They also traded Josh Rosen on day two, to Miami. So Miami got a quarterback in the draft. There was a top 10 pick last year.
Yeah.
They got him at a very favorable salary because he's only owed $7 million over the next 3 years of his contract.
Yeah.
But I think with, Arizona, not only did they get Kyler Murray, but they drafted him 3 receivers to go along with him, and receivers that fit the bill of the offense that he ran at Oklahoma.
Yep.
You have speed guys with a lot of quickness, especially Andy Isabella, out of Massachusetts, who led the nation in yardage, and very quick guy, ran the 4.3 at the combine, and so matches Hollywood Brown that he had at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
The second biggest take, I look at the Washington Redskins.
Yeah.
The Washington Redskins got Dwayne Haskins, the Montez Sweat. They got 2 top 10 picks that fell to them in the draft. Couldn't help but, be giddy about what they did during the draft. Not only that, they picked up Bryce Love out of Stanford. Think about Bryce Love rushed for over 2,000 yards 2 years ago at Stanford. Yeah. He was hindered last year with injuries. But now you're talking about a backfield that's just loaded. You get your top running back last year. You got Adrian Peterson.
Yep.
So you got a 3-headed horse in the backfield. Montez Sweat already is going to join a great defensive line. So the Washington Redskins really, hit a home run come draft day. I like the Baltimore Ravens also.
Yeah.
They picked up some key players that's going to go along with Jackson. You got Brown out of Oklahoma. You got Justice Hill, a great running back that's really going to help Miles Boykin, a wide receiver.
Right.
So they put players in place to make Jackson's sophomore year be a little more comfortable. They fit in his skill set more than they did with Flacco's skill set.
Yeah.
The biggest disappointment to me, New York Giants.
Why is that?
You panic and you take a quarterback that can't play in the NFL.
Right.
Everybody talks about Daniel Jones, especially all the draft opponents, how smart a quarterback he is because he played with David Cutcliffe.
Right.
David Cutcliffe's been the coach down at Duke for 15 years.
Yeah.
Okay? He's never won anything. Daniel Jones in college reminds me of your cousin in Minnesota.
Yeah.
He's only won one game in his college career
right.
versus a top 25 team.
Yeah.
Think about that. He won one game in his college career against a top 25 team.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to say, well, Duke didn't have a supporting cast. Well, the academics at Duke are no harder than the academics at Stanford.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Yep.
So when you want to say they couldn't get the players, David Shaw has no problem doing that. So you reached up to get Daniel Jones, who's an underneath thrower, just like Eli Manning. So all you did was get a younger Eli Manning.
Yeah.
His downfield accuracy is not there. And the worst part about that is that the Giants have to face the Washington Redskins twice a year for the next decade.
Yep.
With Haskins playing quarterback for the Redskins. Now, if the Redskins, develop into the team that they were last year, think about when Alex Smith went down, Charlton.
I remember.
They were 5-2, leading the East.
Yep.
They are a better team now than they were before Alex Smith got hurt. So this is a team that's really going to rebound and be good.
And
the New England Patriots, you think about a Super Bowl champ, Bill Belichick.
Yep.
He doesn't take chances with players, either through the draft or through the free agency. What did he do last year in the draft in the first round? Went out and got a running back.
Yep.
What did that running back do in the Super Bowl? Scored the game-winning touchdown, led the game in rushing.
Yeah.
They went out and got Keneal Harry, a wide receiver out of Arizona State.
Arizona State, yep.
This is the first wide receiver that Bill Belichick has ever drafted in the first round.
Yeah.
The first one. Just like Sonny Michel was the first running back he had ever drafted in the first round. So Bill Belichick knows something as he's getting older.
Yeah.
He knows the players that he needs to be effective. He knows Tom Brady needs more weapons. And that's what he's lining Tom Brady up with. More weapons, Charlton. And he's going to be a dominant performance.
Let me get your feeling. Let me get your feeling on one thing. Since you're at New England right now, and you're talking about Brady, I know Brady says he wants to play to 45, but I like the quarterback that they get. Also, Jarrett Stidham, quarterback out of Auburn. You were high on him last year. He outcompeted Jake Browning when they opened up against Washington. Do you think that's a solid pick? He can sit on the bench for 2 years. Mix of your thoughts.
Well, you get a player with a mid-round draft pick that has some pedigree.
Yeah.
Who has played in couple different conferences. He started out in the Big 12 at Baylor. He transferred to Auburn, played in the SEC. So he has played with the highest competition in college football.
Yeah.
And so you come in, you bring him in. There's no pressure on this young man. All you're doing is bringing him in to learn. You look at the last time that they drafted quarterbacks. They took Garoppolo, and they took the kid that's in Indianapolis out of North Carolina State, Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, Brissett.
They drafted both of those quarterbacks. They got assets for them because they traded them. Now they're bringing in a quarterback that can learn the system. He's a big kid. He looks like Brady physically.
Yeah, he does.
So he's 6'4", great athlete also. He's more athletic than Brady. So if he can sit around for 2 years and learn this offense, now you might have the heir apparent to Brady in this system. So they're also positioning for the future.
I think that was just a great show. I want to get, before we close and get your Big C's thoughts, I want to just get your feeling. The South is really football-centric. Even though there's hockey, there's baseball, good track and field programs. But they took the NFL draft and they put it in Dixie territory. And I know a lot of times people say the South is football crazy, and it really is on the college level. But I think their turnout was double what it was when they had it last year. Even when they had it in New York and they had it in Philly, they've had it in different places throughout the country. What does that say about the rise of the South when sports teams are moving? We got a lot of movement. We talked about Vancouver, British Columbia, where the BC, they went down to Memphis, the Grizzlies, and then Seattle, the Sonics, went down to OKC. Maybe they saw what we just saw in the NFL draft, that people, they have a lot of sellouts down there. I can't say Memphis sells out, but they're feeling for the South. It makes football very healthy. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, the football is Southern hospitality.
Yeah.
Well, what you saw in Nashville was something that the NFL has been eyeing for.
Yeah.
You figure 600,000 people showing up.
That's a lot.
That's more than the presidential inauguration a couple of years ago in Washington.
Yeah.
So when you think about how football is looked at 365 days a year in the South, college football, And what you had was college graduates going into the NFL. That's what made this so big.
Yeah.
Is that you had all the people around it and watch many of these players, especially the SEC players,
Yeah.
play in college.
Yeah.
Come in to watch them. And so it was an easy trek. Yes, you had NFL fans around, but when you go to a hotbed where the only thing that exists is college football.
Yeah.
And so when you're in the middle of SEC country where the average stadium size is 90,000, fans on Saturday.
Yeah.
This was just, a little extra, dessert for them.
Yeah. Those Girl Scout cookies.
The party and you're in Knoxville, you got all the great barbecue and blues and country music going on down there, Johnson.
Yeah.
So this was a party that the NFL got right. We've seen it in New York at the Radio City Music Hall forever.
Forever, yeah.
We saw it out at Texas Stadium, in Dallas.
Yeah.
We saw it in Philadelphia. We saw it in Chicago. But nothing has ever matched what they've done in Knoxville. This is the greatest show that the NFL has ever put on next to the Super Bowl.
No, I think they did a great job. I went and saw Thanos over the weekend, and I saw, I won't say what happened just for people who haven't seen it yet, seen the Avengers Endgame. I think I pulled a hamstring walking into the thing. I was trying to try out for an NFL team, but I pulled a hamstring just trying to fight the lines getting into the movie theaters. It set records over the weekend. So for you kids that love Girl Scout cookies like Big C, or movies like The Avengers like Charlton, go out and watch it. It's a really good movie. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, there's baseball, basketball, and hockey going on. But you think about it, the NFL right now is still bigger than all of those things because everybody's doing an assessment and breakdown of the draft, who got it right and who got it wrong.
Yeah, well, Big C, I think if people can Google it, you got it right. In fact, we got it right, and you can get it right, too, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, as we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you, on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.